Matt Wilkerson, CEO and co-founder of Extern. Thanks so much for joining us today at Center for Social Capital and the Social Capital Insider. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate having me.
So Extern is a pretty amazing company. It's one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you, and you're a pretty interesting guy. It's such a people-centric concept and company, which is really essentially reshaping how students can access real-world work experience, whichever everyone knows is so crucial to later success. I know it has been in my life and all of our lives. But just for a moment, I want to talk about your background because it's just darn fascinating, actually. It's so incredibly eclectic. Seasoned entrepreneur, and want to talk about one of those other companies as well, an investor, but amazing dual degree from MIT in engineering and management. Just both sides of your brain are obviously operating in interesting ways, and then the CEO and co-founder of another very people centric company in its own right, Aha Life. Tell just tell our viewers a little bit about how you get from MIT and that dualistic background to Aha and now to Extern. What was the through line in all that?
Yeah, I when I was growing up, I really wanted to go become an artist. I was
Oh, okay.
doing I was into drawing. I was, you know, would occasionally either get first or second place in the art contest
Oh, wow.
school, and then I was really got into film. And so I wanted when I went to was applying to colleges, I wanted to go become work for a company like IL, Industrial Light and Magic, Pixar, do special effects for movies. And I actually was debating between Brown and MIT. I'd gotten into Brown, and they have a really great um, department that does computer graphics and animation. That actually that some of the Pixar technology came out of. And after I looked into it more, I said, I'd gotten in off the wait list at MIT at the last minute and looked into it and said, I think I want to go there to really like push myself because it had a reputation for, the saying was if you like Pez candies, then MIT is like forcing you to eat like 10,000 Pez candies. So, how much are you going to like it after that? So I wanted to test myself. So I went to MIT and got exposed to like some incredible people there,
Yeah, I'm sure.
just left and right. And I actually lost track for a bit of what I really wanted to do. I decided I didn't actually want to be working in special effects for film because it was going to be a very, very narrow focused discipline.
Yeah.
And I was someone that liked to dabble in a lot of different things. So I had at one point, and this will come back later to what we're doing with Extern, had an internship at MIT. They call them externships. As a 4-week January work project with an alumnus. This was going to be with a Fortune 500 company. And a week before I was going to start, they said, "Sorry, we don't have the bandwidth to manage you or help,
Oh,
oversee."
wow.
So it got canceled. But I decided that I was going to start interviewing for jobs in consulting and banking because it seemed, again, I actually imagine investment banking as being the worst job you could have. It just sounded so miserable. I was reading up about what analysts would do and the late nights and like, oh, this sounds miserable. But I still interviewed for it because I just wanted to see if I could get an offer, I guess.
Okay.
And I ended up getting rejected from every bank because I didn't have internship experience. They're like, well, why would we
Yeah.
take on you when we've got all these other kids that are, basically come in looking like they were born to be working on Wall Street, doing internships every summer. So luckily I had been networking with some alums who worked at Morgan Stanley. For some reason, when they came into the interview, they just they had been MIT grads, they were computer science majors like me, and they just sort of got it. They didn't care that I didn't have any experience. And that led me eventually to getting an offer there. I moved to New York after again, I didn't want to do banking, and I kind of convinced myself to do it because I said, this is a big opportunity.
Sure.
There's people like this was like their life's dream.
Yeah.
And it sounds really hard. Let's see if I can do it. So 9 months in, I get tendonitis in my hands from just the constant typing and stress and never exercising. And it's not like carpal tunnel syndrome where if you can get surgery on your nerve and it fixes it, you just have to rest. I went to doctors, therapists, they said, you just got to rest it. So I thought my career was over before it started because as
Yeah.
you
Wow.
can't type, you're not very useful. But luckily, I had a VP in the group who said, "Hey, we have all of these interns that just started, and about 8 of them. They're super. They need a lot of help. They don't know much. Everyone's too busy to help them. Can you please be the intern coach, kind of like an associate?" So
Oh,
that was
wow.
my
Okay.
job for the summer, and they were so good at what they did that they were basically as good as the first years by the end of the summer because they had someone training and coaching them. They
Yeah.
got offers to come back, and I still stay in touch with some of them today. Some of them are like, been managing directors at hedge funds and VC firms. So I after I decided I got to get out of finance or banking at least, and I was really excited about what was happening in Silicon Valley with startups, but I guess I wasn't yet jumping right into it. So I found a handful at this time. Now today, a lot of VC firms hire associates and people very early in their careers, but this time there weren't that many. I found a fund, Technology Crossover Ventures, that had been around a few years, joined that after a few interviews, and spent time doing consumer internet investing. And then this, brings us to Aha Life. So I had felt like, I was there during the great financial crisis. And, a year after that, we were just sort of sitting on our hands because people were afraid, well, is the world going to keep falling apart? And so I wasn't really doing any investments. And I just started thinking, what am at that point, I was flying around first class and
Hmm.
staying in nice hotels, going to these conferences. And, it's almost like I felt like I was receiving more than I had achieved. I
Mm.
was like, why am I going and meeting with these entrepreneurs that are building these incredible businesses? And I'm kind of like this like arbiter of whether or not they get money or not. And it felt to me, it just didn't feel like genuine,
Hmm.
authentic. And so a friend of mine from college had messaged me when I was in the hospital recovering from having my appendix removed. I had appendicitis. And she started telling me about this idea she had for a luxury e-commerce platform of gifts, accessories, like really amazing products from these artisan designers from around the world that didn't want to sell on Amazon. They didn't have like an e-commerce channel built already, but they had really great products. And we wanted to build this platform out that would curate and showcase it in the right way. And that became Aha Life. And this actually tapped back into my artistic side
Yeah, sure.
that I
Sure.
had left behind. So I felt like I was finally in a world where I was applying more creativity, like learning what it was like to be an entrepreneur, making every mistake you can imagine. And it was kind of like that TV show, if you've ever seen the show Silicon Valley on HBO.
Yeah.
I watched it years later. It's like every episode, I'm like, yeah, that happened, that happened, that happened. But yeah, that was kind of the start of my entrepreneurial journey.
So, oh my God, just so many observations from all of those incredible relations. Thank you for that. Um, I the hard times that you went through are very intriguing to me because, and then you just mentioned the appendicitis too, which you just kind of threw in there. Um, I wrote an entire book about how tough times actually motivate us to think more about others and bring us closer to our relationships. I think you kind of had that background already. Your artistic imperatives, I think, are art is rooted essentially in wanting to communicate with others and wanting to interact with others. But I think some of those tough times maybe also made you think about that. And what I love about that first company, I mean, the luxury goods are great, and from an economic point of view, that's incredibly appealing. But that that basis of helping artists who had trouble getting the word out. That must have been incredibly fulfilling for you, not just to be doing something on art, but helping other artists, that maybe weren't in a position to do something like you did. That must have been incredibly fulfilling.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there were so many brands who launched their products, some for the first time through us. We would help them get PR, and they were incredibly thankful. Some people I still have relationships with to this day.
Yeah, and in my mind, I'm seeing that as a great promoter in your incentive for, hey, I can do something that helps, that makes a difference in people's lives, and it can make money. And did the profitability of that or effectiveness of that have a little bit to do with, making you think, you could stay in that people centric space and make something work?
I think so. I mean, I I this in this case, this was my friend Shauna from college. She had the original idea. She was CEO and she had brought me on board as a co-founder. And so I got inspired by her vision.
Mm,
And I think that the whole Aha Life experience, it taught me, I came out of it being like, well, I can do much more than I thought I could. Because there was some
mm,
trepidation even leaving, when you're in like banking and then VC and you're leaving this like track that you're on, right?
okay.
Being well
Yeah.
paid, having some, there's a clear path and structure and then you're like, I got to go now and figure out like how to set up like a warehouse logistics system and you know like
Yeah.
do merchandising and it's like I don't know, am I any good at this? I don't, you're just kind of like winging stuff, and you figure it out and you kind of you get to a sense of yourself. And I think coming out of that, I said,
Mhm.
all right, there's I've gone through so many I've gone through so much, seen so much that I have more confidence in taking an even bigger risk now
Okay.
on my own.
Yeah.
And this is what led me down the path of solving a really hard problem that we've made a lot of progress on and we're still working on, of how do you help people get, especially young people coming out of college, get meaningful jobs and have meaningful careers.
So bring us then up to speed with uh, why did you think that was so important? Obviously, you've already shared some of the experiences you had, which I think probably planted the idea into your head. But why did you think it was the right time to do this, and why the market needed it so much?
Well, it started with I had actually, after I left Aha Life, I had looked at a few different options, like joining other startups. I ended up working with a friend of mine who was doing international education. He had started uh, a successful SAT prep company, but specifically for international students that were coming into the States. And he had said to me, "Hey, a lot of my alums there that have gone into college, they keep coming back to me asking for referrals to get internships or
Mm.
jobs because they don't really know how to navigate the US market." And so I just thought that this is like an interesting problem I could help. I started to do some career coaching. I enjoyed it. I then
Oh,
thought,
wow.
yeah, so I started with that, and then I said, well, I have my experience, but I have a network of people who I know who has really great experiences, and so I brought them together, and then I built a platform around that, and this is what became Paragon One. The the idea was we're this career center as a service, like the career center that you wish you had, but most career centers don't have a lot of resources. Where if I want to talk to someone that worked in software engineering at Google, or somebody who started a fashion brand, or someone who's doing data science or consulting, I can do that. I can get feedback on my resume. I can get interview prep help for an interview I'm about to have, or just explore a career. And so we had these it's kind of like a boot camp, online boot camp, and I we ended up going through Y Combinator with that.
Okay.
And we actually had, a pretty good market that we had secured in the international student market. But what I realized was coaching is valuable, but it came back to, did I get an internship or a job? Like that's why our students were going through our programs. So at the end of these programs, I was spending time making all these referrals to companies. And some I knew, some I didn't. Some were new. I was cold emailing, going to people in my network and saying, "Hey, we've got these really great students that are very determined. They're focused on learning and they want to get an internship." And some would get internships, but it was hard. It was, in some cases, I had companies saying, "I wish I could, but I don't have time. I got too much going on. I don't have time to train them. I don't have time to manage them." So I started realizing that this was the bottleneck. If we could figure out a way to create more internships in a scalable way and take the heavy workload off of the managers and employees that would have to manage them, then you could potentially have more. So we started testing out this idea of like cohort-based learning around a project, and we brought in some of the DNA of our Paragon 1 career coaching to support the students as they do the project. And then that morphed into what today we call the remote externship.
So I love that. The idea of wanting to help, a personal experience of trying to help people, then you put a business model on it to scale. So many of the CEOs that we've interviewed, and David Heath of Bombas comes to mind because this is so comparable to his story of, he lived in New York City, he saw homeless people all the time around and wanted to help. Found out that they needed socks more than anything else. And then he put his business mind to it and he said, how can I create a business around that so I can scale it? And that's kind of similar to what you did here with Extern with Extern and these internships, but coming from that personal place of wanting to help. So it's such a powerful combination when you can put those two together. So your company's gone through a couple of different models, I know, since you started. Give our viewers a real quick and complete take on, what does your company do now and how do you do it?
Yeah, so now what we do is we provide a subscription platform, subscription marketplace for job-ready experiences called externships. You as a student or a graduate can apply once, and once you get in, you can do any externship on our platform with companies like Beats by Dre or Amazon or Wayfair. And it could be doing projects like build an AI agentic workflow, or do a go-to-market case study, or maybe something in finance or consulting or product management, marketing, all sorts of career paths. And why a subscription model targeting consumers? So as I mentioned, when we started testing out the externship model, the assumption, and I think the assumption most people would have with something like this is, oh, the company is the customer, right? Like they're trying to recruit, they're trying to run internships better. And we launched right before COVID hit. And we were trying to be like we first started with startups and small companies to be their virtual internship manager. And that proved to be very, very like difficult because it was pushing us to be like an Upwork model where they're like, oh, we just need this project done. And like, well, okay, these are students. Some of them are, not the highest level of experience yet. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
So COVID hits and suddenly big corporates are wanting to invest in internship alternatives remotely, particularly if we can help them get to a more diverse population that they aren't normally reaching. So we actually rode, the big wave of kind of the corporate diversity movement, and that was kind of like 2001 to 2000 and I would say 3 when we decided, all right, this market is only going to grow so much. There's only so many corporates that have big budgets like a PwC or a National Geographic, who's a fantastic partner. We still work with them. Home Depot, many of these partners we still work with, but I realized in order for us to go after our mission of serving millions of students and learners around the world, we had to have a more accessible model. Now, most people would say, wait, if you're charging students, isn't that the opposite of accessibility, right? Like isn't that pay to play? And I say, well, that comes from a good place. That's understandable. But actually, if you constrain yourself to what a company can pay or what a university can pay, then only the students under that umbrella get the access. Whereas I wanted to say,
Mm,
hey, look,
yeah.
if you don't happen to even go to college, you should be able to have a shot at this. So let's just make it affordable. $10 a month, cost of lunch. And you get to, again, try any externship. If you don't want to do it after 2 weeks, you can join a different one. No one's going to penalize you because these are cohort based. So we make sure there's enough students in them. And that has really taken off. We've gotten now, we're over 7,000 paid subscribers, and we're seeing 75%, historically 75% of externs who complete an externship will land a job or an internship within a year.
Oh, wow.
So the efficacy is there.
Yeah.
And our future plans are not just to stick with consumer only. We're going to be offering a version of this to universities, to high schools in the coming year, where they can sponsor bulk numbers of students at a time to get externships and then help them build their resume.
Yeah. Wow. So, quick picture of how it works, like on the tactical level. Somebody wants they're willing to pay the subscription. What happens? What do they do? They go to your website and
Yeah.
kind of just walk us through in a quick way what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So first you have to go through an application. As long as you take that application seriously, we're looking for curiosity. We're looking for, are you committed to finishing the externship? Are you
Okay.
actually going to do the work? We don't look at GPA or school or any of that.
Okay.
Then once you get accepted, I'll actually share. Well, actually, do you want me to share? I can walk you through it right here if that
That'd
works.
be
So
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, so let me. It looks like. Hold on, just need to get access to share here. Let's see. Are you able to? Oh, it says the host isn't allowed sharing for this meeting. Not a problem. So once you go onto the platform, it will show externship after externship. Kind of think of it like Netflix for professional experiences. And you get a
Oh,
chance to
okay.
like preview it. You'll get a chance to look for, again, some of the companies like Schreiber Foods and doing a sustainability externship, or Canva. We just launched a data visualization and AI design externship. So you can explore them. Once you go into the program itself, they'll have different start dates. We have curriculum training that's very specific to the externship itself, meaning it's not just pure academic. It's not meant to be busy work. This is very specific training to the work that you are doing.
Okay.
You submit all of your work through Extern, through the platform. We have program managers, we have teaching assistants who were externs that did really well and got promoted to help other externs,
Oh,
giving
wow.
you feedback and trying to figure out who's doing good work that should get surfaced to spend more time with the company. In the meantime, we have live sessions with the company where you can join and engage with your peers, hear feedback from the company on your work. And then the program managers, this is Paragon One staff. They're representing the company. They host these extra office hours where you can come and ask questions there that maybe, some students maybe don't feel comfortable asking with the company. Then if you complete successfully, you get a professional award that you can share. Top performers get rated with a top performance certificate and award. And then you get to put it on your resume. You have to clarify it is through Extern, but you can put who the company is, an overview of the project that you had. And we are working on ways into next year for externs to start sharing a little bit of a portfolio. We just have to, of course,
Okay.
not disclose confidential information. But this is really important because when you go out and recruit, it's more about what you've done and what you can show and prove. It's a big theme with extern as opposed to just like what you're only putting on your resume.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, that sounds great. And it's not a rabbit hole of other fees and service fees, whatnot, once you sign up.
No,
You pay for the subscription and then you have access to all of this,
full
correct?
access. Correct.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then you're essentially representing these students going forward in a lot of other ways. And I mean, there's other companies and services that charge for that, and they charge just for that they charge more than this. So,
Yeah.
that's very affordable and very authentic. Love that. So you have this other aspect that's interesting that I just want to touch on a little bit, the AI aspect. We talk a lot about how AI is not going to destroy the world, but it can help, and all the ways it can help people. You do not use AI to replace people. You have plenty of employees and plenty of people that help, from what I can understand. But you do use it in a very powerful way, correct?
Yeah. So I would say to think about on two levels. So the first is, we made it very clear with our team, everyone at Extern has to be AI amplified. They need to be able to do their job and have creative ways to not just be more efficient with AI, but deliver value to the students or the company partners. So we're starting to go through projects where, we create a lot of L&D content for each externship. And we have an L&D team. Well, we want to make them, 3x, 5x faster in not just the speed, but also quality, right?
Mm.
5x better in terms of quality. We want to have a good QA process across all of our content using AI. We want to be able to use AI to answer student questions that come in through support. But more importantly, in the experience itself, is imagine you are a student and it's midnight and you're working on your externship because that's when you had time to do it. You're stuck. You don't know if the work you're doing is the right way to do it, and you just want to get some quick feedback. So you can submit your work to your manager, to an AI manager that's been trained on your
Oh,
project, who's it's like having an expert in the field, and actually get feedback and guidance, what to improve, so that you can keep progressing and not get stuck. And this is something that I think like you would even want in your internship, right? Because there's only so much time to
yeah.
get with your manager. So we still want to have the human component, program managers, teaching assistants, obviously time with the company. And that starts to shift more towards kind of community engagement, human interaction. But the kind of the core problem of like, I need to know if I'm doing something right, AI can start replacing that.
Hmm. Um, I love that on many levels. First of all, the value of the AI that you're getting out of it, being directed by delivering for the customer, delivering for the student, not just making something easier for you guys. So again, that people-centric perspective. But then I also love what you said at the end, the idea that, you're not getting rid of the human element, the people that are in your company that are still continuing to help and overseeing it. You're just delivering something more to the customer or to the student. It sounds like you try very hard to make sure that you're delivering value, to the end customer, to the student. Uh, how do you make sure that your employees have that same integrity, that same authenticity that you have? Is that something that you work at?
Yeah, I mean, we really think about how do you show up every day in an authentic way with our students and build something that is going to help them build an identity, right? At the end of the day, I think about what our real mission is here. When you strip back the career component is giving people an identity and a voice and building confidence. And
Mm,
so we actually like our team is I think the most mission driven team you're going to find. I mean, the commitment they bring every day to student questions, to student problems, to like figuring things out constantly as the product evolves is, to me, very inspirational. And so we wouldn't be where we are without this team.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You talked a little bit about students get on board and whatnot. How do businesses get on board if they want to be involved in this and be a part of this?
Yeah, I mean, we found this is very new for companies. That's not something that they know to go out and look for. So
Hmm.
usually we try to find businesses that we think would be really good matches for our students, or projects that they can do that would be really good fits that also can be beneficial to them. So there's about like 50 categories of work and projects that we'll do. Um, but yeah, I mean, if a company hears about this and is interested, they could actually go to our website. We have a company section, and they can fill out a form there that asks a few questions about what their goals are. Because some companies, they have interesting projects for students. Some their teams may be really interested in like mentoring, and so it's a really great
Okay,
way to like mentor at scale at high impact. And then
sure.
other companies and teams may want to recruit. We have some that do internal referrals, or they want to look for an intern, and this is a good way to like test that out.
Okay. So, and it's www.extern.com, right?
Yep, extern.com.
Wonderful. I got one last question I want to ask you, and I always like to ask this. You're an incredibly authentic person, caring about people in so many ways, shapes, and forms has been a part of your whole professional life. Is there something in your youth or your background, family, upbringing, that you can think of that kind of made you that kind of person?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think about my parents. I mean, they sacrificed a lot to make sure I had the opportunities that I had. They really instilled hard work in me and
Mm.
set a fantastic example. Um, my, my dad, both my parents, didn't have a college degree, and my dad in
Mm.
his adult life went back and finished and got his, and started at the ground floor as a salesperson at furniture company called Haverty's, based out of Atlanta, and then rose all the way up to be an executive over many, many years. And so I kind of saw that hard work and determination. And the other thing I would say is, when I was in high school, I had a math teacher, and I coming into high school, I actually didn't like math. Like I mentioned, I was more right brain. I was more into art, and to me, math was like boring and dry.
Hmm.
So, but I had this math teacher who was very difficult, and he was sort of known as being tough and set a high bar. And I I decided to join the math team, even though,
Oh,
and
wow.
the reasoning behind it was a very like, it wasn't because I was like, oh, I want to do math. It was like, oh, I better do something like this, because I actually at that point thought I might want to go to MIT or Caltech or some technical institution, learn computer science so that I could go do special effects, computer graphics. That was like my thought process. So I was like, oh, I better do some like left brain stuff. So I joined the math team, and I ended up finding I got really into it, because the way he laid out math was it was more about creativity. It was about creative problem solving. And so it actually tapped into my right brain. And I saw the
Mm.
dedication that he brought to his students. He would drive the school bus to Alabama to go to math tournaments
Oh,
himself.
wow.
He was very, very dedicated, and he ended up um, getting cancer when I was a junior, and I watched cancer eat him away, and he passed away right after I went to college.
Oh, wow.
And I just always remember like the care and dedication that he brought. He actually had gotten a PhD in math specifically to teach. So he's like, I'm going to get a PhD at UGA, and so that I can be the best math teacher in the state.
Oh, my
That's his goal.
God. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Uh, Thank you for sharing that. That's such an incredible story. And, just throughout my life, there's always somebody like that that I find. And, when you look back, that's just so fascinating because, here you are in high school, not being interested in math. And, this incredibly dedicated teacher leads you to be able to go to MIT essentially at some point,
Yeah,
and which leads
I
you to
wouldn't have
everything
gotten in
else.
without him.
Yeah, there you go. And here you are, 15, 20 years later, you're helping students. I mean, it gives me chills when it always happens that way because there's always somebody, and it's this circle of caring and circle of love, really. And we don't talk about that enough in business, but here it
Yeah.
is. And thank
Dr.
you for
Love.
sharing that. Thank you for
Dr.
sharing
Love
that.
was his name. Yeah. Thank
Oh,
you.
that was his name.
Yes, Dr. Love.
Oh my God. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. That's just that's beyond coincidence. But yeah, thank you for sharing that so much. And thank you for sharing everything here today. This has really been an incredible time with you. I really appreciate it. Our viewers will appreciate it. And again, amazing company, amazing opportunity for students. I would advise everybody to go to extern.com and check it out, whether you're a student or a company that wants to make a difference. Thank you, Matt, so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it as well.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.